Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me, it's the first time you're seeing my face. Hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in, the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my weekly wrap up. This is the first full week of the new year. So this is week number 1, January 1st through January 7th, and all my reading shenanigans in between, as well as my Q&A answer segment for my 1-year anniversary on BookTube. I didn't get quite enough to actually warrant an entire video, so it will be at the end of this video and I will timestamp it here. So if you just want to skip to that part, you're more than welcome to, or you can stick with me through the entire way of the video. But if you'd like to see what I've been up to this week, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so I did have some carryover books from 2023, and I'm happy to say that I completed at least one of them. The one I didn't complete from the carryover was Valor. I'm still working with it. So plugging away, but you will see my thoughts on this eventually, I promise, because it's definitely something I want to continue with. I'm still having a really good time with it. Just with the holidays and everything, you know how it goes. But the first book I completed this week was this guy, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, the final installment to the Throne of Glass series. I picked up the Throne of Glass series because I am participating in the SJM read-along hosted by Jen over the Book Refuge, and I'll link her down below. We are reading all of Sarah J. Maas's published works in publication order. And this was the installment for half of November and into half of December. And I did not get it read in December. I got it started, but I didn't finish it, and I just finished it this past week. And I completed the series, guys. Throne of Glass is done. It's done. I have a full reading vlog of me reading this, and I will link it up here. I just uploaded it earlier today because it wouldn't go up on Saturday, so that's why you did not get a Saturday post from me. For some reason, our internet was taking god-awful forever, and it just wouldn't upload. So I uploaded it first thing in the morning when I woke up. But this thing, oh my God. What can I say about this that won't spoil the whole series if you've never read Throne of Glass, which if you haven't, you probably should go read it. It's pretty fucking awesome. But what can I say? It's not going to make me cry like a big, huge fucking baby. This series, how do you end something like this? I mean, seriously, how do you end something? When I started to read this book, that was a question that was in my head throughout the entire reading this book, is I knew I was going to get things wrapped up, things were going to start happening and be put together. And I just kept thinking, like, how is she going to do this? How is Sarah going to end this series? Is she going to kill her off? Is she going to give me a happy ending? Is she going to leave unanswered questions, where we can revisit later, which, maybe she could with the ending that we got. I could totally see some spin-off stuff. Yes. There was definitely room for further growth if she ever wanted to visit the series again, for sure. But my main question in my head is, how is she going to do it? And I'll be damned if she didn't fucking nail it. I did not cry as much as I thought I was going to bawl at this book. Because the way I was with Akawar, that thing made me numb for 2 weeks. This, once I was done, I had that moment, and you see it in the video. If you watch it, you'll see it, where I'm just, okay, it's done. It's done. And I'm okay. I'm not shocked. I'm not freaked out. I'm not, lost, because all your questions get answered. That's the one thing I can say about this series. The way she ended it is she gave us answers for everything. Even questions I didn't realize I fucking had. I got answers to questions like, I didn't realize I wanted to know that. That's amazing. Yes. I loved it. It was a really good time. I definitely gave this thing 5 stars. I completed it. It's done. I know the characters that didn't make it are going to be missed. I know the story conclusions that I got, I'm okay with, and I'm happy. And because they end on hope, they end on possible future installments should Sarah ever want to revisit this world. And everything wasn't wrapped up in a pretty little bow. Not everybody gets the ending that I thought, you know, how you would end a series. They don't all get happy endings. But the endings they got fit the characters and their story arcs and their growth and where they came from. And there's this moment at the end of this book where it's just the original three. That was probably the hardest moment to read because I had to revert back to my feelings on the original three in the first place. And I realized that after reading this book, even with these characters' growth, I grew as a reader as well. I grew with these characters. Now, the only thing I wish I could say is to know what that growth would have been like had I read them when they first came out. Because I read these pretty much back to back. I started this read along in April, and this has been the predominant series in it because it's the longest. So less than a year, I have seen the growth of my reading and my expectations and what I can see coming, what I'm, you know, changing, at least for Sarah as an author. But I'm wondering, and the only thing I'm left wondering is if I had read these when they first came out, what kind of reader would I be now if I had to wait the year gaps or the 2-year gaps to find out this story? That's a question that I'll never have answered. And on one hand, I'm happy that I will never have that answered. But on the other hand, I like the reader that I am, and I'm wondering how much I would like the reader if I read these when they first came out. So completing this series has definitely taught me that, you know, get in on the ground floor. If something looks good, pick it up because you never know where it's going to go. I had a fucking blast with this book and this entire series. And if you would like to see a whole video dedicated on my entire thoughts of the Throne and Glass series, please let me know in the comment section below if that's something that you guys would be interested in. I'm not talking a series review because there's no fucking way I could do that at all justice. Just my feelings on all the installments. You've seen me read 3 of these and you've heard me talk about all of them, but never all of them as a single unit and how I put things together. So if you'd like to see that, let me know. I would be more than happy to do that for you guys, especially for anybody who's a big Sarah J. Maas fan. Just let me know. But it's done. It is done. It's completed. And I will never forget it. 5 stars. Definitely 5 stars. But that's not the only thing I completed this week. I also read The Floor Leaf by Jacque. It looks like this. I've been wanting to pick this up for a while. This is the first, I want to say first installment. It's a Holy Night novella, but it's not really dedicated as a series. It is a kind of a standalone, but it's part of the Holy Night kind of series that Jacque has got going on. And it is a friends to lovers, and we have graphic sexual situations with an emphasis in the primal kink, with extreme scenes of primal play. And if you are not familiar with what a primal kink is, it is the act of receiving sexual gratification through primal practices. Primal practices can be a varying degree of things. It applies to a range of behavior, which includes some forms of animal play, but it's not the case for everyone. It can involve large predators, noises like grunts or animal sounds, and a consensual rough sex element where biting, hair pulling, consensual hitting, or scratching may feature or be highly prominent, not just this random, scratch. This is something that's intentional, and its desired effect is sexual gratification. It can also incorporate dominant, submissive, or a top and bottom dynamics, sometimes through animal play, which follows a hunter-prey kind of style or a predator-prey logic kind of mindset. Power play may also be explored through consensual scenes revolving around chase, struggle for dominance, things of that nature. And this installment definitely lends towards the chase element and the dominant element, the predator-prey mentality. That's what really is featured highly in this one with the primal kink. So it's more on the extreme side of a primal play kink. So we have Samantha and Adrian. Samantha and Adrian have been friends for years. They grew up together in this hotel that both their parents have bought together, and they run. Both sets of parents have passed away, and Adrian sold his share to Samantha and her sister, but he still comes over and works with them and helps out with the hotel because he is a, I believe, rugby player. I think they said he was a rugby player. So he's out doing his own thing. There was an instance between Samantha and Adrian when she was very young that she knew she had an attraction to him, and she went for it. And even though she was scared, she took a chance. And in her eyes, she was turned down. And it made her fearful of ever trying it again, at least with Adrian. So she backed away and just remained friends, permanently friend-zoned. Until this one time when Adrian comes, and this is where this book takes off, comes in to help with some of the hotel things. And something in him just snaps. He's tired of not knowing. He wants to know. He wants to know what could be. And he's scared of ruining his friendship, but at the same time, the thrill of her possibly being into him in the way that he is naturally entices him. And our story really, really kicks off when she accidentally walks in on him in the shower while he is masturbating to a fantasy of her and doesn't turn away. This is a novella length, so it is very, very short, but it packs a fucking punch. What works in this book? Right off the bat, the chemistry between Adrian and Samantha. You know it's there. You know it. There is no doubt in your fucking mind that these two are not hot and heavy for each other and are too fucking scared shitless to say anything to each other. You know it, and you want it to happen right off the bat. That was written to these characters so well. It was conveyed through the audiobook, which is how I experienced this book, perfectly. The narrators in this did fantastic. So the chemistry, spot on. The character traits that were given to Adrian in particular. Adrian has a primal kink. And his character is written in a way where it's very easy to understand how this is his way of being sexually gratified. It's very logical that this would be something he would be into. It's not where he's this shy little meek person, all of a sudden he's this growly creature. His character traits already demonstrate that this is something he does in his life. This is his lifestyle. It's not just something he does behind closed doors. This is who he is. It's conveyed very, very well. And I really, really enjoyed that because one element, I love surprise elements. I love surprise sexual fantasies for people. I love when they step out of who they normally are and do this like character. I love this role play. But sometimes it's nice to know what you're getting right when you look at it. And I knew exactly when I met Adrian what I was getting, and I was okay with that. I was fucking okay with that. It's fantastic. Loved it. Had a great time. The consent conversation when our physical romance starts to take effect, there is a very clear consent conversation with a safe word, description of what the safe word is, why she needs a safe word, what could possibly happen. And I just fucking ate that shit up. I do. Sometimes those conversations are boring. In real life, those conversations kind of suck to have. All right. If you've ever had one, they're kind of like, so what are you into? What are you not into? I'm not into this. And you feel awkward. You feel like they're going to judge you. It's sometimes very, very uncomfortable. Sometimes it's fucking great and it's part of the experience. And in this instance, it's part of the experience. It's written to where it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel like you're signing a fucking contract. It's part of their dynamic. It's part of how it lends to how well they know each other as people because they've grown up with each other. They already know their tells and their signs, and it was so well done, this consent conversation, because it was so natural. It didn't feel like it was something we need to stop what we're doing now, have this conversation, and then pick it back up. It just flowed so easily through it from start to finish. It was awesome. And I'm glad that it was in there because primal is one of those lifestyles, one of those kinks, one of those fetishes, whatever word you want to use. One of those things that definitely does require some kind of conversation between the two parties involved. Extreme primal play. I'm not just talking about the scratching and biting. I'm talking about like the hunt, the chase. This is a planned almost fetish to make it really like intense. And you see it in this book as well. There's planning, there's thought behind it, there's intellect, it's a very smart carnality. If that is the biggest oxymoron I've ever said in my entire life, it is carnal, it is completely animalistic, it's human, it's just instinctual, but yet at the same time, your brain still needs to be actively engaged in it to really experience the right way, because there are so many variables that could happen within this kind of power play and power dynamic that you need to be aware of. And this book handled that really, really well. It was very, very fluid. It did not feel very like choppy, piecemeal. It felt like they were doing it forever. And I thought that was great. I very much enjoyed that immensely. The demonstration of how the primal kink kind of works, the chase, the hunt scene, it was great. I have personally never experienced it to this level, but if I did, this is how I imagine it going. Like, this is kind of how I've imagined it. And I thought it was fucking fantastic. But again, I have never experienced it personally, so I can't say if this is 100% accurate, but from what I have seen in films or in other readings, this is pretty stereotypical, but it was still done in a very, very unique way for the characters, the story, utilizing their environment, the world they were in, utilizing the elements of other people, utilizing their own backstories with each other. I thought it was done really, really well. The last thing that really, really worked in this was the audiobook. Okay? I'm just going to straight up say this. I picked this book because of the audiobook. The narrators of this book are Jacqueline Kelso and Vio Eros. If you are familiar with either one of those, I am not very familiar with Jacqueline Kelso, but I do follow Vio Eros on TikTok. And if you're familiar with any of his content, his voice box is basically just sex in a voice. Like, that's what it is. Like, he's got one of the sexiest voices on the face of the planet. And I have said that about Richard Armitage. He is up there with Richard Armitage's voice quality to me. He is. His voice is amazing. And Jacqueline's voice, this pairing is just, you're fucking putty. You're putty, dude. Just jelly the entire time. You don't want to do anything when you're listening to either one of these voices. They both have this sensual quality to them that they've displayed, given to their characters. Now, I don't know if this is actually how they normally talk in real life, because I don't personally know these people, but the character voices that they gave, so sensual, so... There were times where I felt like it was completely genuine. And the uniqueness of this audiobook. I've never heard an audiobook where it wasn't a traditional audiobook. Jacqueline Kelso's part, who was reading the part of Samantha, felt more traditional than Eros's part. Eros's part, they had a conversation a lot of times in the book. And then occasionally you would hear grunts and moans from Eros during some of the more intimate scenes, or grunts and moans from Samantha during intimate scenes. It was more of a conversation rather than line by line by line. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that experience. It threw me for a loop sometimes because I wasn't expecting it. And I felt like, am I invading somebody's personal moment here? I feel like I should probably step away and not listen to this, but fuck it, I'm going to anyway. You know, one of those situations. But it was it was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed this audiobook. I enjoyed the tonal quality of the voices. I enjoyed the way they worked together in the voices. I enjoyed the extra sound effects that I got. And yes, I got some extra sexy sound effects in this, and I thought it was pretty dope. Not gonna lie, didn't expect that. And then I heard it, I'm like, I know what that sound is, because I've heard it. And that's fucking awesome. I love that. That was great. That added this extra layer of intensity to some of those scenes, and it was really, really well done. I had a great time with the audiobook, and I highly recommend this book on audio. Jacqueline Kelso's voice is on point, and Vio Eros. If you ever listen to any of his stuff on TikTok, you already know the man has got a fucking killer voice. You already know it going in. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he is not the reason I picked up this book on audio. I straight up wanted this book because I knew he narrated it. He is the reason I picked up this book. And I am not ashamed to say that, because dude's got a sexy ass voice. Yes, he does. And he knows how to use it. However, there are some things that don't work in this book, and one of them is part of the audiobook. The biggest one, actually. The reason I only gave this a 4.5 stars instead of a 5-star is a portion of the audiobook. And it's something that I didn't realize I had an issue with until it happened. So there's a scene in this book where Samantha's sitting in a bar talking to her sister, who's the bartender. And she mentions that, I don't know if I can do this, especially if I lose foot rubs. And some random Joe Schmo and douchebag over here at the end of the bar says, well, touches her and says, I'll rub your feet. And the character of Adrian comes in and says, I don't remember the exact line, but says something about, it's gonna be really hard if I break both your hands. Okay. So in this scene, and I have to break this scene down because I love Vio Eros' voice. I love it. I love it. But at this point, his voice was too much. He has such a sensual quality to his voice. It is literally like the bedroom voice 24/7 in this book for him. And this scene, I felt missed. So it made me look at all the scenes really, really closely, because I picked this book for the audiobook. So that was something I was really looking at. And the way he says it's too sensual. He's not talking to Samantha. He's not trying to woo Samantha in this. He's trying to tell this guy to get the fuck away from his girl, showing dominance, showing ownership. But it definitely sounds like he's trying to turn him on. And I'm pretty sure that's not the dude you wanted to turn on. And because it's not the voice I expected to hear, I expected to hear a angry, guttural tone, not the same bedroom tone that I heard earlier when he asked her some questions. It's not the tone that tone that he gave when they were playfully flirting back and forth and had this little repartee going back and forth. It's the same voice that I heard in that moment. And that's not the voice I felt like I needed to hear. And so it made me look at all the scenes. And I felt like even during the primal scene, it was almost too sensual. It was almost too soft for that moment. Was it hot? Yes. Yes, it was. I am not denying that. I just felt it should have been stronger and more aggressive at times. I felt like the sensual quality, one of the qualities I love about this man's voice, didn't lend to certain areas of the book. And that sucked. That sucks so bad. But it was something I wanted to bring to the forefront because that's one reason I picked up this book, was for his voice. So to have it not hit every single part was kind of a letdown. But did I still have a great time with this? Fuck yes. Did I still think he rocked this shit? Yeah, I think he did. Because this is something that's personal to me. This is a personal thing for me. So other people might look at me like, Jackie, his voice is fucking sex in a voice box. Like, shut the fuck up. All right. This is just my opinion. I felt like there's a few moments where the sensual quality that I loved about his voice didn't work for that moment. And I felt like he should have pulled it back a little bit and done more of a angrier tone, more of an ownership tone in some moments of the book. And Jacqueline does the same thing, but it's more noticeable with him because Jacqueline is the prey at this point. He is the predator in their primal power dynamic. That was the only thing, was that one little thing. But it was something I had to bring up because it was important to me. Now, this book does have a spice rating of 4 chili peppers because, damn, this is where his voice just fucking skyrocketed this whole fucking book for me. The buildup, the banter between these two, the sly wording that they use, the way they were said during these build-up moments, these teasing moments. Oh, fuck me. God, it was great. Perfect. The hunt scene, that scene was fucking great. I loved everything about that. Everything. I loved the way it was described. I love the techniques that were used. I love the conversation, the dialogue that was used in it. I love the way the intimacy was written. I love the way the primal was written. I loved it. I thought it was great. And the audiobook definitely does help because some of these extra layers of intensity, they are sounds that you only hear during certain intimate moments. And that was definitely worth racking this chili pepper rating up because that, when you're in it, you hear sounds and no one ever talks about those sounds, but sometimes those sounds, the squishy skin against skin slapping sounds, the moans, the rumbles, the creaks, the hisses, the little guttural breaths, they intensify that. And the fact that both of these audio narrators gave that, I was jelly. I was jelly during that whole fucking scene. Oh my God. It still is sending chills down my spine. Still doing it. So it was really, really well done. And I had a great time with it. But that is all I read this week. And now we are going to get to the questions, the Q&As of portion of the video. So if you don't want to see this part, thank you for joining me for my weekly wrap up, and I will see you guys all soon. But if you'd like to stick around and hear what questions were asked for my year anniversary on BookTube, then here we go. So I last week on my January TBR mentioned that was my 1 year anniversary on BookTube, and I was opening up the floodgates for Q&As, and I only got a few questions, so I'm just tacking it on to this video as well. And the first question that I have is from Abby Jones 71. She said, what is the best or one of the best Christmas gifts you received? And spill the tea on the worst book you've ever read or DNF'd after 50%. Happy YouTube anniversary. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment, and thank you for being one of my subscribers and always asking questions. I really do appreciate it when I see your comments and everything. Thank you for being one of the bigger commenters. I really do appreciate that a lot. So the best Christmas gift I ever received. That's impossible. The best one I received this year was definitely this necklace. This was a gift from my husband, and I will sort of kind of get close so you can see it. I only wear Levian chocolate diamonds. That is kind of my, that's my stone of choice. My engagement ring is a Levion chocolate diamond. And I just always loved these stones. So every Christmas, my husband tends to get me jewelry. And this year I got this necklace. Last year I got the original wedding band that I wanted that we couldn't afford when we got married. So we won our wedding bands, which this is the original one, but this is the one that I originally wanted. And so he got me this guy. So that was a Christmas present that's now a year old. And then the year prior to that, he had my daughter pick out this one. So that was another Christmas present. And then our another Christmas, the first Christmas before we got married, he got me another necklace that matches my engagement ring. So he tends to always get me jewelry. I'm kind of a jewelry girl. I'm a jewelry girl. But besides jewelry, the best Christmas present I've ever gotten was just having Christmas with my family. I love Christmas morning. It's one of my favorite mornings because I get my whole family together and we just enjoy each other's company. My parents come and my father-in-law comes, and it's just a very special day for me. I just really enjoy it a lot. So that's probably the best Christmas gift that I've ever gotten, was that I get to have Christmas with my family, and it's mine. It's 100% mine. And I get to surprise my husband because I'm more of the giver. I like to give the gifts and I get to see all the reactions and some of the surprises that I've thrown in there from time to time because I'm that person. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And the worst book I've ever read or DNF'd after 50%. I don't like to DNF books. I don't. I DNF'd one book last year. And that's just because I wasn't feeling, not because I didn't like it, I just wasn't feeling it. But I don't want to say the worst book I've ever read, because there's a lot of books out there that they were bad when I read them, and I'm wondering if they would be different now, reading as a different age, different mindset, different place in my life. Because there were books that I loved that I reread, and now I'm like, why the fuck did I like this book? This book's stupid. You know, it's such a big change. But there is one book that I have reread 4 times. I have reread this book 4 times. Every single time it was assigned to me, and every single time I didn't like it. And that's Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. I had to read it in the 8th grade. I had to read it in my sophomore year in high school. I had to read it in a intro to literature course, and then I had to read it in a upper level literature course for my undergrad. And each time I have never liked it. I love the movie. I don't like the book. I can't seem to get behind this book. I just don't. It goes in one ear and out the other. It doesn't stay. Nothing really stays with me. I enjoyed the movie far better than the book. This is one of the few occasions where the movie has always held more weight to me than the book. And I don't know if it's the fact that this book has always been assigned to me to read, and that's why it's just kind of like, ugh. I've never truly read this of my own free volition, in my own kind of what I'm looking for. I've always read it with the mindset that I have to remember certain things for a grade. I have to write a paper. I have to compare and contrast things. So I've always had another level reason to read this book. It's never just been my choice. So maybe that's the reason why. But if I had to say I have a least favorite book on the face of the planet, it's this one, because I've read it 4 times and I don't like it at all. All times, I've never liked it. So yeah, Of Mice and Men. Becky sent the next and final question, because I only got 2 questions, guys. So Becky at FirstLadyReads, she invites me to do a lot of her collabs with her, and I love it. So thank you for sending me a question, Becky. I really do appreciate it. And her question is, what are your favorite videos to film and watch? My favorite video to film is my weekly wrap-up. I actually do enjoy that, even though sometimes it's not always a lot to talk about. They're one of the ones I really like to, because they're the ones where I just get all of my crazy out. Like I talk about everything about the book because it's so fresh in my mind. And so I get to do what I like to do best, is talk. Even if I don't talk about a lot of books, I really like these weekly wrap-ups, and you guys get to see exactly what I'm reading and my hardcore, really initial thoughts. I don't have a lot of time in between reading these books and talking about them to sit there and be like, kind of dissect my thoughts and take away and edit. You're getting, this is me. Like, you are getting 100% me on my weekly wrap-ups. On my monthly wrap-ups, you're still getting me, but I do edit some of the crazy, I guess you could say, out. And I find better ways of saying it. So I really enjoy these weekly wrap-ups because it's more 100% me. And it's just kind of, this is what I did this week. This is what I'm working on. Merry Christmas. My favorite to watch, though, it really depends on my mood. I like to watch, okay, so I love to film reviews. They're my next kind of favorite video to film, is a single book review. Because I get to really flesh out and talk about everything in the book, likes, dislikes, the whole 9 yards. I don't like watching reviews on single books. So that's kind of a weird juxtaposition for me. But the videos I like to watch the most are definitely, I like discussion videos and rants. I like when people take away all of the edited bullshit and just start talking. You know, they go off on, the ones where people kind of go off on tangents because they feel they're more conversational, and I feel like I'm really getting to know that person more. Because their true emotions coming out. I also really like gush videos because true emotions coming out. I like when I get to see the real people. I mean, I'm always seeing the real people on YouTube. I'm always seeing it. But the rants and the gushes, they tend to show more emotion and more of their true character. And I really like that. I really like, it's a level of getting to know them that I feel like if I knew them in person, I would get to know them in that way. That's how they would be conversing with me about these books. Because I know when I'm with somebody face to face, I'm talking about a book, I'm not sitting there trying to think logically about it. I'm just like, oh my God, this book is fucking amazing. Oh my God, there's this one part that, like, I like that because that's kind of how I talk to people in person about books, or when I don't like books. So yeah, I would say I like to watch the rants and the gushes of whatever topic is going on because of the realness of the person in them that I tend to see more often. All right. Those are the questions I got, guys. I only got 2. So yeah. But thank you so much for everybody who's been a part of this channel with me. And I hope that you all stay with me through this year. And I hope you enjoy what I'm bringing to you. And if you have any suggestions, you know, I'm an open book. Just let me know. And the last final element is I did post on my community tab a poll of which book you guys would like to see a full book review on of my TBR from January. And the winner of that is undoubtedly, oh, it moved. Hold on. Let me bring it back up. I'm pretty sure undoubtedly, but let me just double check that. Yes, the winner of that is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. So you will be getting a full book review on this. I don't know if I'm going to do a vlog since I'm doing a full book review. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. So, but that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you guys all soon with another video.